Hey guys, welcome in. Mike Morelli here with Scott Rowley. Really stoked to record this podcast. Really stoked to record all the podcasts. To be honest, I think I say that on every intro, but um, yeah, this podcast topic today came out of just so many conversations that we have with, guy after guy after guy who's got this entrepreneurial dream that he wants to turn into reality, but he's got this like fundamental question in the back of his mind. Scott, I know you dealt with it. I know I dealt with it is, how do I know? Right. How do I know when my business idea is worth quitting my job for? So that's why we wanted to record this podcast today and really answer that question. And I think it's going to be a really powerful one because I've got a totally different experience than Scott when we both quit our jobs. So Scott, why don't you, say what's up, of course, but yeah, brother. What do you think just based off this little intro that we've got here about this topic? Are you excited to jump in?
Yeah, Mike, this is going to be a kind of a cool reflection, something that I don't think I've ever really reflected upon. And this question, how do I know when it's time to quit, is something that every single beginning stage entrepreneur that's working in a job, that is, battles with. And there's so much uncertainty and fear and doubt that comes up when that question comes to mind. There's the excitement of the idea and how exciting it'll be to have the freedom that running your own business has the potential of bringing and creating your own vision. But all of the fear and the doubt can really hold somebody back from taking that ultimate leap out of a safe and secure job and into the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. So I'm absolutely stoked to share a little bit of my story and some of my experience from quitting multiple jobs that were safe and secure, air quote, and starting a business.
So what was your experience like? You kind of started installed and then went back and then you started again. Take us through that, your experience there of trying to quit and then I'm not saying necessarily recall your story, Scott, but that battle that you had internally of trying to figure out, is this the time? Is this not the time?
I think I am going to go back, multiple decades actually, because my experience with work has always been that I can find a way to make money, whether it's something aligned with my purpose and my passions or something that I just need to do to make money to pay the bills. So having that proof and that experience from a very young age has helped give me the confidence and the belief in myself that whether I stay at this safe and secure job or jump into entrepreneurship, I can find a way to make money. And I actually quit my first job when I was 16 or 17 years old. I'd been painting houses with a friend, and I decided, well, why don't I go do this myself and earn like 10 times as much money? And that was scary for me because I was paying for things like my car and my gas and my food and saving money for college and doing all of these things at a fairly young age. But I knew with certainty that I could start earning more money because I had more than replaced what I was earning hourly with what I called at the time side projects. So I'd started to build my own business outside of my job in my teenage years. And I kind of took this same concept into my first corporate job. I actually got bored, I think 2 or 3 weeks into my corporate job. I started looking for projects outside of my day job that would leverage the skills that I was developing, of which I could actually earn money from. At the time, it was digital marketing and website design. And Mike, I think it was maybe 6 weeks into my corporate day job that I found my first $500 website project client. Again, at the time, I had no intention of like building my own consulting business and quitting my job and turning that into my full-time income. And I didn't even know it at the time, but I was using that experience as a basis to begin to create a proof of concept and begin to accumulate proof that it was possible for me to replace my income from the skill set that I had developed. And in doing that, I believe that just by taking the actions, I started to create a belief in myself that it was possible. My confidence started to grow, and I started to really build more clarity around what this idea could look like at the time. So
this is an interesting thing, because there are people that I've talked to, specifically guys that are in our program, who have proof of concept. For example, there's a guy who joined our program a couple of weeks ago. He's more than proof of concept. He has paying clients, right? Yet still battles with the fear of failure. So there are people listening to this podcast right now, guys listening to this podcast, who have a business idea, right, that they've proven will make money in some form. Maybe it's a $500, $1,000, $40, depending on what they're selling, right? I know a guy who's selling like wooden furniture type of thing, and has made a couple $1,000 off of it, but still doesn't feel that it's the right time to quit his job and go all in. What do you feel like that tells you, Scott? I mean, just based off of your experience, obviously in your area of expertise and in the mind, what do you feel like that tells you? Like, what do you feel like is like really the fundamental problem here?
It tells me that there's a gap between where they are and where they believe. Again, the key word here is belief, where they believe they need to be in order to feel like their business concept is safe, secure, and sustainable. I mean, for the average American, living off of $1,000 per month from a business is garbage, and it's just not feasible. So I think that the fear, there's multiple things here. There's not just this fear of failure, which we'll get to in a second, but there's the fear of, if I quit now and I continue to make what I've made in the past, 500, 1,000, maybe they had a $5,000 a month in the business, but there's a lot of peaks and valleys, then I won't be able to meet my needs, which just fuels the fear of failure. It fuels the fear of taking a leap in faith, believing that it's possible, because they don't yet have the proof that, hey, if I quit, I'm going to hit 5K per month consistently. So we got to go look at the past now. What beliefs are we carrying with us that are keeping us stuck in this cycle of thinking that if I were to go all in on this idea, it just won't work?
This is the key thing here, is that you pointed out belief, right? You believe that you were going to make this happen, and then you made it happen. And then the key thing that separates someone else, for example, I cited the guy in the program, or guys that are listening to this right now that we do calls with, it's the beliefs. Like it's all going back to one's beliefs that are fueling. Because again, if people aren't familiar with this algorithm on the way that humans work, it's that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions dictate your results, right? So you're talking about, well, where does this come from? These beliefs. Well, we've got to go inside and really evaluate that, right? And essentially what we're calling programming. And so like, if a guy's listening to this right now, Scott, and he's like, well, yeah, that's totally me. Because maybe I've made a little bit of money, or maybe I haven't even made any money, but I'm trying to figure out, how do I know when's the time to quit my job? Like when do I know that? What would you say to him?
This came up on a group call a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about growth mindset and fixed mindset. And after having the conversation, it wasn't that this individual was stuck in a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, but what they were actually tuning into was logic and emotion. And emotion will say, your idea is awesome. You are going to crush it if you quit. You're going to kill it if you go all in. This thing is going to grow so quickly. Logic says business doesn't work that way. It's going to take work and time and proof of concept and planning and Maybe it'll take a month, maybe it'll take 3 months, maybe it'll take 6 months to get to a point where you actually feel, again, emotion. You feel like this is a sustainable source of income. It's a sustainable business concept. And through that process, your mind will actually begin to reprogram itself. You'll start to think a little differently. You'll start to feel different. But if your thoughts are just rooted in emotional excitement or emotional fear, you will continue to stay stuck in this programming that for a lot of beginning stage entrepreneurs prevents them from taking the consistent action that's necessary to get to the point of business sustainability, financial sustainability, and what I call the entrepreneurial leap, where somebody actually does go give their notice in their day job, they quit, they're stoked, they don't have to jump into the next month or 2 months or 3 months with financial fear that they're not going to be able to provide for themselves. And I've worked with many clients that have been working full-time corporate jobs or a full-time day job while they're building their business on the side. You could call it a side hustle or a side business or whatever you might, but at some point it becomes much more than a side business. I mean, for many of these guys, they're earning more in their side business than they are in their day job for a very consistent period of time. I mean, I've worked with guys, Mike, that have been working a full-time job and on the side building their business up to 5K, 10K, even 15K per month with consistency. And I think for different people, it takes a different point in the development of their idea to feel comfortable leaving the stability of a paycheck and a full-time job. And again, this is just from my experience. I know it's different for different people, but that's what's worked for me, and I've seen work for many others.
So the thing that I think is really interesting is that what one person feels safe and secure about, another person could find it threatening. Like what one, someone's working a corporate job right now and they would say to me, that's safe and secure. In my mind, I think that's the most dangerous thing in the entire world, right? For Mike Morelli to be working a corporate job. I'm not saying a corporate job. I'm saying for me to work a corporate job would not be safe and secure, no matter how much money I'm making. I would say it's the most dangerous thing in the world. And then another person who's saying, well, how do I know if my business idea is worth quitting for, right? I think it's really starting to evaluate also the kind of pros and cons, like the upside or the downside potentially of that situation. So like to give some context here, I didn't have proof of concept. I didn't even have a business idea when I quit. I had nothing. I had a few $1,000s in my bank account. My body was broken down. I was working as a server in Jackson Hole. I quit. I got in my car and I drove back home to New York. And I literally had no idea. I had tried a few different things. I had tried flipping Airbnb properties, a stock investing course. I tried to start a consulting business for adventure companies. I did email marketing. I tried health coaching. I did all these things. None of them worked. They were out of alignment, which is the short answer. Like the reason they didn't work is because they didn't make sense for me. There wasn't enough like emotional intensity or burning desire for me to actually follow through on any of these things. So of course they failed. And for me, I look back and I say, yeah, it was worth it for me to quit my job with no entrepreneurial idea, proof of concept, any of it, because of the consequences that I was experiencing in my life from working the job. And also knew that one day I'm going to die, and also know that none of this really matters anyways, right? Even if I go broke per se, I'm still going to be able to find a way to survive. Mike Morelli's not going to end up on the street. Just like every single person listening to this podcast right now, the chances of you ending up on the street is so slim, is zero. Yeah. It's literally a 0% thing, because subconsciously you wouldn't even allow yourself to do that. So yeah, thanks for saying it's zero, Scott, because it's literally 0% chance. And I just realized that if I went all in, knowing the way that the mind works, I was like, if I go all in, there's no way that I'm not eventually going to get what I want. And so I think that's another kind of side to evaluate too, where like sometimes we evaluate the logic side of it, looking at the money. Okay, does this make sense? Maybe I have wife, kids, that type of thing. But I think sometimes it's also important to look at how's this affecting me? And what are the upsides too? You know, I could look at in my future and say, well, if this does work out, if I do figure this thing out, right, what are the upsides going to be? And I think that's also, you know, something valuable for people to look at. So often we look at the consequences, which is of course an important thing to do, but also looking at how positively your life can change for you, your family, your friends, your kids, your wife, and using that as inspiration.
I'm so glad that you shared your experience, because yeah, it's quite different than mine. In fact, every time I've quit, which I think I'm through my third or fourth iteration of quitting a job to start a business, I've had a proof of concept before leaving. I kind of knew what I was going to next. And I don't believe that there's a right or a wrong way by any means.
No,
there's a right
not.
There's a right way for each person. And I mean, your experience, Mike, is pretty inspiring, because you put yourself in a position where you had to make something work.
It's the only way to get what you want in life. If you really want to get what you want in life, I believe that you have to put yourself unreservedly in that position to win. And I'm not saying win in like a basketball game versus for some friends. I'm saying win in for you to get ultimately what you want. Like I realized that if I looked back on my life and I said every single thing that I've gone all in, I'm a very much an all in type of guy. It's always just been in my nature. And I said, if I go all in on this, even though I don't even know what I'm going all in on, I know that I'm ultimately going to get what I want, because I always have. And I actually believe that it's the same case for every human. I'm not like a special case. I actually believe that for every human, that man always gets what he intends to get. I believe that for sure. And when you go all in and you truly commit to something, nature has no other option than to give you what you want. And it's such a scary thing, because it's the unknown. But I guess I trust in that, you know, and I'm not saying that's true or false or right or wrong, you know, as you kind of mentioned before. But if I believe it to be true, then it's true.
And Mike, I'm curious, because I've been like very observational in our space, and I can't speak for everybody, but your experience is unique in that you're in this job, you're getting paid a consistent paycheck, you've been trying things and thinking about starting your own business. Did you kind of feel in some ways stuck and constrained and unable to really tap into the emotional intensity that's required to start a business when you were in that safe and secure job? Like, did you have to leave the comfort of the restaurant job and the consistent paycheck to go all in on building something?
It got to such a point for me where the money I was making, like 4K, sometimes 5K a month, which for me at that time, single, you know, ski bum life was a good amount of money. Like it was affording me the lifestyle that I wanted. For me, it wasn't comfortable anymore though. It was so uncomfortable to be in that job that I just couldn't. For me, it was like, I'll go handle the uncertainty. I know that I can, you know, I can weather storms, you know, so I know that if I just put myself in a position to at least figure out a business. I love it. This dog is just over here, just jumping around. I knew that if I could at least put myself in a position to just at least figure it out, then I would figure it out like other people have as well. I felt less stuck about the business idea and more stuck actually about my own job, where I was like, I've just got to get out of this, because it's just simply not worth the money. It's not worth anything, because I'm not actually going anywhere. Right. Like if work for the sake of work doesn't mean that you're progressing. Right. I mean, if we really think about it, I was like putting in all this work, but I wasn't actually going anywhere. And so I knew that I actually had to quit the job to actually go somewhere other than where I was. So I was just staying in that job. And I mean, it's a blessing, of course, in the long run, to look back and say, you know, I'm very grateful that I went through that and for the job, because I learned a lot. But you know, at some point you have to pull the trigger.
Mike, at what point did you feel like you landed on the idea and quitting was like, that was the best choice that you could have made, and you started consistently earning income from your new business idea?
Yeah, I went and um my parents, I was putting it out to the universe that I wanted to create a business. I knew this, all I knew was that I wanted to create a business that allowed me to work from anywhere, do what I wanted, have the opportunity to travel the world. That's it. And then my mom was like, it's kind of funny. Um, there's this guy that you should check out. And he is like helping people create online businesses and da 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 da. And so I went in and I just did some of the work. And very quickly I realized that like I was a mindset coach, just going and really looking at like what I'm passionate about in life and just doing a lot of that internal work, mindset, etc. And, ever since that moment, it was like an aha click of, oh yeah, you're going to do like kind of like mindset life coaching. And I didn't really know what the business was. I started off called like Quarter Life Clarity. I was like, I help people with like anxiety or something like that. I had no idea, but I got a client within like my first like 3 or 4 days. And then once that happened, I was like, all right, other people have done this. Other coaches have done this. Like, I'm going to figure it out. And 2.5 years later, we have Peak Prosper. And it's so funny how now we're helping the guys who we once were, which I think is a beautiful cycle. But yeah, it was a very like aha moment. And those are just the type of moments that I really try to listen to more than anything else in the world, shutting off the noise of the world and paying attention to what are the gut hunch feeling, aha, click feelings, and then just going all in on that. So that was it. I didn't have proof of concept. I didn't even have a client. It was just like, oh, this is it. Like it was like wham type of feeling.
Smacked you.
Yeah, smacked me. And then, after the excitement wore off that you were talking about, then the next day you get fear of failure, self-doubt, all the stuff comes out. And that's when I doubled down on doing the internal mindset work, because I knew that my problem was not going to be finding clients or making money or any of that stuff that people think that their problem is. It was all of the things that were actually stopping me: self-doubt, fear of failure, procrastination, imposter syndrome, lack of a vision, all that. So,
we've kind of talked about two different approaches to the same question.
Yep.
How do I know when it's time to quit? And
I'll just jump in real quick. We've talked about two different approaches, different approaches that distill down to the very same thing: your beliefs, your mindset.
Yeah.
Your story is completely different than mine and your approach, right? But we ultimately solve the problem the same way, through the mind.
Yeah, just the way that you changed your belief was different than the way that I changed my belief. But we both got to this point where our belief had changed, in that we believed in ourselves enough to go out and figure it out. We believed in our business idea or entrepreneurial spirit burning within us, that it was possible.
Yep.
And I mean, ultimately, you, like myself, surrounded ourselves with other people that had already done it. We found some mentors and a program and some methodologies that could help us.
So then I hired you, bro.
Figure it out, right?
And then I hired me. Yeah, you were my first mindset life coach, and then I went from doing like $1,500 a month to like $6K, $7K, $8K, and replaced my income and did more than I've ever made in my life. So it was like, and then it was just like, all right, well, we're off to the moon now.
Yeah, and that was in like 60 days.
That was in 60 days. That was wild. Wow. Cool. So if we'll wrap this one up here. And if you're a guy that you're looking for that next mindset coach, a proven methodology, we've got a supportive community here at Peak of, dude, skiers, climbers, kayakers, surfers, world travelers. Our community is it's turning into such an epic group of dudes. Oh my God. If you're looking for that, if you're looking for literally a methodology to turn this entrepreneurial dream that you have into a reality, then book a call with us. It'll be in the show notes. And we've also got a free mini course too, if you want to give that a go. So yeah, Scott, it's been a pleasure doing this one tonight, dude.
Yeah, fun jamming. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cool. Happy days, guys. Thanks for tuning in.